guys, my name is Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be filming a Q&A. So I asked on Instagram for your questions and you have given me a list of very interesting questions. And the first question that I am going to start with is from Tundra Blue, and she asks, can we get a Stephen King update? That is actually the reason for this Q&A video. So I am in the last week of scripting videos for the Dark Tower series. If everything goes to plan, I should be starting to film sometime next week. That's where I'm at with season 2 of the Dark Tower. Dolce Moonchild asks, did you finally read Practical Magic? And if so, did you like it? I did finally finish Practical Magic, I believe in December. It's in one of my monthly wrap-ups. I will try and find it and link it down below. At first, I didn't like it because I had such strong attachments to the film, but the more I read it, the more I liked it and thought of it as its own thing. So I think on a reread, I will like it more. Green Demon 95 asks a bunch of questions. What is your favorite Disney movie? That would be The Lion King, out of like old classic Disney, and probably Moana out of like the new recent Disney, because the soundtrack is amazing. Do you like cheese? To which I feel like the only response is more than almost any other animal byproduct. And if you get the reference to that movie, you get brownie points. What is your favorite finger food? Pizza? What are your feelings about potatoes? Yeah or nah? Yeah. If you could go back and stop yourself from reading one book or watching one movie, what would it be and why? So if I could go back in time, I would stop myself from requesting Perfect Remains by Helen Fields from the publishers, because I read the blurb and I thought it sounded interesting and I requested it and they sent it to me and I started reading it, and it is just whiny entitled men from both the psycho killer side and the Scottish French detective side. I DNF'd it. This is my first DNF of the year. I don't DNF things very often, but if I could go back in time and get the hour I spent reading the first like 10 chapters back, it would be this. Culture for Unge, which is Peter, says, hi Emily, it's Peter from Denmark. Have you read the full book or excerpts from Michael Wolff's book about Trump? No, I have not. I have absolutely zero desire to give that sort of material any sort of attention. He goes on to say, here in Scandinavia, we can't believe the things he's saying and we're quite stunned. He continues to surprise and not surprise me because we knew exactly what type of human he was before he was elected. Like, if you've ever seen The Apprentice. And then he goes on to say, how are Canadians feeling about Trump? So I feel like Canadians are of like mostly of the same mind. Trump is a scary human being, a really poor choice for a president. I personally don't want to go into the States at all right now, but that's just me personally. There are probably some Canadians who think Trump is cool, but the large majority of humans that I interact with don't. Godmersham Girl 29 asks, have I ever been to London? No, I have not. Here's the thing. London is not on the list of places that I would like to see in the UK. Like, cities don't really do anything for me, but there are places within the UK that I would like to see. I'm butchering all of your names. You're welcome. Race Angle Author asks, besides Harry Potter, what was your favorite book in high school? Michael Ondaatje's In the Skin of a Lion. Lewis Beck asks, what's your favorite Harry Potter book and what's your favorite character? My favorite Harry Potter book is probably the 6th book. Like, in terms of reading, I like the 6th Harry Potter book. In terms of listening on the audiobooks, I really like the 4th book just because it's a lot of spectacle. There's not a lot of plot-heavy details happening. It's just kind of a fun, easy listen. My favorite Harry Potter character is Dobby. Fisher Brendan asks, what is your opinion on Charles Bukowski's work? In particular, his novels, not his poetry. I have never read anything by Charles Bukowski, so I have no opinions on his novels or his poetry. Fisher Brendan also asks, have you traveled much outside of Canada? Do you plan to do much traveling in the near future? So I haven't done a lot of traveling, mostly because as a student I've been on a fairly limited budget in terms of both time and money. In high school I went to Cleveland, Ohio and Sandusky, Ohio, and I've been again to Cleveland, Ohio as an adult to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a second time. I have been to Memphis, Tennessee. I have been to Puerto Rico. I went to the British Virgin Isles and Haiti as part of a cruise for a band trip in high school, and I spent a summer in Rottendorf, Würzburg, which is in the state Bavaria, I believe, in Germany. Basically, I lived with my family for a summer. On my list of places to go after Germany are Iceland, Denmark, the Netherlands, Greece, Japan, and Hawaii. Those are sort of my top interests. On top of that, I would just like to see more of Canada because I haven't seen a lot of Canada. Believe it or not, I've only been to 2 provinces. So expanding into Canada first is more realistic before I have the budget to travel overseas. So do I plan on traveling much in the near future? Depends on what you define as near. Within the next 5 years, I hope to hit some more Canadian provinces. Overseas isn't financially feasible at the moment. Decoledge Dame asks, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Fingers crossed, not still a CER at Indigo. Like, if I'm still with Indigo, I hope it's in like a higher leadership position. Ideally, either publishing or something in the arts, like making my own career. I don't know if that's possible, like either starting a freelance business if the publishing masters doesn't actually result in a job in publishing. I do live close to a university and a college, so there are plenty of papers to edit. There are plenty of people who need help with editing, so to start a sort of freelance editing business, that could be something. Over the next 5 years, I hope to save up some money to put a down payment on a house. Do you prefer dogs or cats? I love cats, and cats love me. If I am walking in the neighborhood, the cats just come to me. There's something about me that radiates cats. I bring them to me. I am the cat lady. However, I am also very, very allergic to cats. I had a cat. If you go far enough back on my Instagram, you can see my gorgeous Himalayan calico cat. She was a cross, and she loved me. She was just the biggest jerk to everyone else. But I was so allergic to her that I couldn't have her in my bedroom. Like, she used to love to sit on my chest and it would give me the worst asthma attacks. I love cats, but I cannot have a cat. Hypoallergenic dogs are my friends. Podcast recommendations: Oh Witch Please, Secret Feminist Agenda, Unladylike, Stuff Mom Never Told You, and Generation Y are my favorite go-to podcasts. I listen to them all the time, especially Oh Witch Please. I heard about Oh Witch Please while I was writing my MA thesis, and I didn't want them to pollute my thoughts in any way. Like, how do you cite a podcast? Because it's not really academic. You're citing other people's opinions, and then it's not scholarly. I didn't touch Oh Witch Please until after my MA thesis, and then I listened through their entire body of works in like the span of a week. They are phenomenal, and one of those women, Hannah McGregor, has spun off into Secret Feminist Agenda, which is a slightly shorter podcast, also excellent. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a feminist podcast looking at pop culture and political events. And Bridget and Emily are wonderful hosts who have taken over for Kristen and Caroline. Kristen and Caroline sort of started Stuff Mom Never Told You, and then after a certain amount of time decided to leave to pursue other projects. That other project is their new podcast, Unladylike, the first episode of which is just recently out, and it is also phenomenal. It is a really like high quality podcast in terms of production, and it's not just the two of them talking to each other anymore. They sort of have a narrative that they string along, and then they interview other people and really get the voices of various humans into their podcasts on various topics. So that is phenomenal. And then Generation Y is a podcast about criminals and murderers and serial killers, and sort of piggybacking off of my interest in death and my own mortality has been sort of exploring really gruesome parts of humanity. I don't know, it's sort of become a recent interest of mine, some morbid getting old thing. I really, really enjoy listening to those. I find the two hosts there good at sort of taking a neutral perspective. Like they'll give you a lot of pieces of information. And okay, so if you've watched Making a Murderer, that documentary on Netflix takes a very specific angle and avoids a lot of evidence. They don't do that. They try and give you all the evidence, so even if it doesn't give you a clear answer, you can sort of make a judgment call, but they're not guiding you in the same way that Making a Murderer guided us as viewers. All very good podcasts. Definitely recommend checking them out. Deckle Edge Dame also asks, what kind of music do you listen to? I don't listen to a lot of music. Here's the thing, I really like music, but I am really, really bad at distinguishing lyrics. I love to sing, but if I can't understand the lyrics, it doesn't do anything for me. So the type of music that I tend to listen to tends to be the sort of things that people deem the crappy top 40, like the substanceless music that is fun to listen to, but really like the same 4 sentences repeated over and over and over again. See, that's the music that I like because there are only 4 sentences and they're really hard to get wrong. And if you do get them wrong, it ends up in things like I Love You Like I Love Some Babies and the Ariana Grande song that sounds like I should have farted, at least I'm being honest. I don't know, does anyone else have this issue that you can't lyric? My go-to Starbucks order is a small black coffee. Top 3 things on my bucket list. Write the novel I have planned. Become fluent in German. Visit Germany. And lastly, she asks, what has shaped your research interests? So I took a children's lit course in my undergrad and I was fascinated with the idea that we could be using these texts to teach young people things specifically. Like, these aren't just fluffy pieces of entertainment, that they all contain some, well, not all of them, but that most of them contain some sort of moral. And so for myself, as a researcher, as somebody who's thought about teaching, as somebody who's worked with young people, I am always interested in how literature can push the boundaries of what is socially acceptable. Fantasy has that potential to sort of offer these subversive spaces and societies, and that is something that I love, that's something that I want to see in literature, that's something I want to do with literature. I've absolutely loved studying it because of all of its potential. When you start getting into the fantasy rabbit hole, one, you realize that as an academic, your pool is very small. It is very, very small. There are like 4 or 5 key texts that everybody cites, and then they do this like magic analysis, and they go in so many places off of these 4 or 5 key texts. The other day I read an essay in which this beautiful human, they wrote this whole argument about how fantasy offers as a double for reality and how there has been absolutely 0 critical scholarship on doubling in fantasy, and how the double, the evil twin, is this trope that's super duper popular in fantasy and nobody studied this. That's the really cool thing, because fantasy is a genre fiction. It hasn't really been touched by academia because it is not literary. So like, there's so much potential in there as scholars right now, and there's so many young people doing a lot of really interesting scholarship, and if I could, I would love to go back, but right now that isn't my place. But anyways, I think I answered your question. What has shaped my research interest? Just loving fantasy literature and children's literature and working with children, because that's been sort of vital to seeing how kids pick up on narratives and what they're pulling from things, and that's why my research is where it is, why I like the intersection of fantasy literature, gender analysis, and children. The next question is from an angel. When was the last time you thought about writing a book? Why was that the last time you thought of it? So I have been thinking about writing a book since I started editing my master's thesis, basically. So at the end of my master's thesis project, you had to have a conclusion, right? And had to look at where things are going and what you want to see. Like, my conclusion was very forward-looking, and I was like, these are the places where fantasy literature is lacking. Basically outlined a book from there. I have notes, I have loose character sketches that need a little bit more development, but it's just a matter of time. I want to try and do NaNoWriMo this year. It's a really big, ambitious project, so I want to pull the one character arc that I think is the place that I need to start and write that for NaNoWriMo. Because once I have one narrative arc, I think it will be easier to intersect a lot of the other characters. And an angel also asks, do you keep a diary or journal or both? Do you find it important or pointless to do so? Basically, from the age of 11 till 16, 17, I religiously kept a journal, every day, daily nothings. I would write out what happened in the day and my thoughts on it. I find I remember a lot of the more mundane, happy things than I do between the time that I went to university and now. So like there's so many like mundane little things that are probably really happy making that I have absolutely no record of because I just got too busy to keep a journal. With the start of my bullet journal, I have sort of scaled back with what I do, and so every day I am writing down one good thing, at least one good thing, in sort of point form for each day. Scuffybug asks, what's your favorite Stephen King book? The Shining. I will be rereading it hopefully in February, if not at some point during 2018, and seeing if that is still true, but the past whatever that I've been on BookTube, I have been citing The Shining as my favorite Stephen King novel. Zach Ellen asks, have you read the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan? So I have read the first book, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Like, I liked it. It was good, but what I really wanted to do was get to the Magnus Chase books because those have won a Stonewall Award, I believe, for their queer representation in 9 to 12 middle grade literature. The plan was to like read through Riordan's body of works in publication order because authors obviously get better at writing, so I wanted to start at the beginning and work my way to the end, but you know what, that's a lot of books. I think I'm gonna skip to the series that I'm interested in and then maybe at some point in the future go back to the Olympus books. And finally, Peterson asks, what is your favorite sci-fi novel and do you read it every year? So I don't super like sci-fi. I took a course in university in which we read like classic sci-fi, and it was all really like dude heavy and science heavy. There were zero women in that sci-fi course, and it wasn't until my master's where I did a visionary women course which included a lot of science fiction, where we read a lot of what would be considered soft science fiction, so Octavia Butler, Joan, Slonczewski, Nalo, Hopkinson, those folks, that I really started to appreciate science fiction. And what I've discovered is that I prefer soft science fiction about society and humans, and like it tends to be the feminist science fiction that's like pushing the boundaries of gender, so like Ursula K. Le Guin, Left Hand of Darkness, that kind of stuff. If I had to pick a favorite sci-fi book, it would be Woman on the Edge of Time by Marge Piercy. That is the one that I have reread the most. I've reread it 3 times. Obviously moving forward, there are a ton of female sci-fi authors that I'm interested in checking out. Like I would love to read more Ursula K. Le Guin. I would love to read more Octavia Butler. Thank you guys for asking me these questions. It is a huge weight off my shoulders to not have to prep something, really, like to just get to talk, and this will be super quick to edit. So content for tomorrow. Yay! So I can continue to edit scripts and continue to write scripts for the Dark Tower project. So I really, really thank you guys for giving me all of your questions. It has been a lot of fun thinking through these things. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you enjoy Q&As and you would like to see them more often, also let me know that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!